Hello everyone! Welcome to the new addition to the TeruShouEnnoTana storyline. And we are starting something new today. I'm not going to be spoiling, but we are. And as I said before, there are going to be some new arrivals coming into the storyline. So I hope you are intrigued. It's going to be interesting. Fingers crossed. As always, special thanks to my lovely patrons and all of you who subscribe and watch these videos. You are keeping this channel alive and going. Thank you very much, and I hope you will enjoy. Working with people he liked had always been a treat for Terushima, especially when said person was as sweet as the young woman sitting in front of him now, checking her new cut with a smile on her lips. You are a magician, Yuji. Seriously, this looks amazing. Terushima grinned, the praise warming his heart. I'm glad you like it. It's always a pleasure when you come. At least I can practice what looks good on your type of hair. He pouted. Suguru won't let me do any experiments on his. Kumiko let out a soft chuckle before he returned the mirror to Terushima. You can't blame him. I'm glad he at least lets you cut his hair. She paused, looking up a bit uncertainly. How is he doing? We didn't get to talk much recently, and he hasn't been home since he moved in with you. So how... is it getting better? He's fine, don't worry. And it's getting much better. He even lets us hug him and kiss his cheek now. He smiled when Kumiko let out a relieved breath, glad he could disperse some worries from her mind. He couldn't blame her for worrying about her brother after everything, and the least he could do was to reassure her that Suguru was doing well with them. Even with all the unpleasant things going on since Christmas. His smile faltered with the reminder, worry of his own sparking in his chest. While they always made sure Dasha was safe when he was with either of them, the one thing they couldn't do much about was leaving Dasha home alone when they left for work. Of course, Dasha had practices and team meetings, but those were always shorter than their shifts, meaning he was often forced to spend several hours alone. And while he probably welcomed it on occasion, Terushima could see how rattled he sometimes was after those alone hours. They had to do something about it. Say, do you think Sugu would want a pet? A pet? Yeah, like a dog or cat or something. I don't like to admit it, but he seems a bit lonely sometimes when we are at work. So I thought maybe we could get ourselves some pet to keep him company. Kumiko seemed to think about it for a while, the resemblance with Suguru's expression when he was thinking striking. If Terushima didn't know better, he could easily call them twins. I mean, you have to ask him first and foremost, but I don't think he would be against it. Though he's scared of dogs, so maybe not that. Wait, really? He never said anything. Yeah, he always kept his distance after he got bit as a kid, but it got much worse after what that piece of shit did to him. Terushima clenched his jaw, making a mental note to mention it to Enoshita and Tanaka to prevent doing more damage to Dasha's already fragile soul. He also scratched off dog on the list of potential pets, much to his disappointment since having a dog act as a companion and guard would make things easier for all of them. A light tap on his hand snapped him out of his thoughts. I'm sure you'll figure something out. Her face softened. Thank you for caring about Suguru so much. It leaves me at peace knowing he has such amazing people around him. Well, hopefully he sees it the same way. Oh, by the way, did I tell you how sweet he was on Valentine's Day? I still can't believe he actually went out of his way to get us specific flowers. It was so romantic. They slid back into a somewhat carefree chatter, talking until Terushima's next client arrived. In the end, Kumiko seemed calmed by what she heard and promised to stop by sometime before she left, leaving a large tip as always. And while Terushima's head was a bit heavier with thoughts about their potential future pet, he would lie if he said the visit didn't raise his mood. The sun was already going down when his last client left, painting the walls with orange hues. He quickly cleaned the whole place, collected his things, and rushed out of the door despite knowing Tanaka was already at home, therefore there was no reason to worry. But he couldn't help himself. For the whole day, he couldn't stop thinking about what kind of pet they could get. Of course, he didn't want the pet just because of Dasho. He missed having animals around too and would love to have 1 or 5 to cuddle to when he came home. However, first things first, he had to... He paused mid-step when he rounded the corner, a curious sight opening ahead of him. Where usually was an entrance to a small, somewhat run-down pet shop, now hung a large, glaring sign reading "Closed for good." However, what caught Terushima's attention wasn't the sign, but rather the little cage lying tossed on the pavement and the quiet, almost desperate tweeting coming from it. He rushed towards it, his heart aching when the bright yellow but very thin-looking budgie flapped its wings inside the tiny cage as he picked it up. "Oh, you poor little thing. Did they leave and forget you here? How dare they?" The budgie chattered back at him as if to confirm his words, the flapping of its wings making Terushima's blood boil when he realized the little bird had barely any space to stretch its wings in the cage. "Did they keep you in this the whole time? It's unbelievable. I hope they'll get charged with animal neglect if they care for the pets like this." His bird-loving heart bled seeing a beautiful and apparently pretty chatty parrot in such bad living conditions. Against his better judgment, he opened the cage door on a tiny cranny, just enough to stick his finger inside to pet the little head. A surprised smile curled his lips when the budgie leaned into the touch, chirping almost happily. "Good girl. You're a friendly one, aren't you? And lively, even though it looks like they haven't fed you properly for weeks." He huffed, determination settling in his mind. Careful not to hurt the poor budgie any further, he grabbed the cage and rushed towards the nearest place he knew sold bird food. It was only when he stood in front of their door, cage with the budgie in one hand and the bag with seeds in the other, that he realized he might be going straight into a long lecture. The seed shopping took him longer than he anticipated, meaning all 3 of his boyfriends were already at home. Namely, Enoshita was home. Already feeling the dark cloud gathering above his head, he lifted the cage to his face. "You have to be quiet now, okay? Or Chica will kick us both out." He hid the cage behind his back as he entered the living space, taking note of the unusually calm atmosphere. Daisho looked up from where he sat on the couch and gave him a little wave, the way he was huddled into the light blue sweater with the sleeves reaching all the way to his fingers, sending Terushima's heartbeat skyrocketing. "How is he so cute like this? It's not fair." "Where were you? It's already past 7. He quickly turned so that Enoshita couldn't see behind his back, flashing him a smile he really hoped looked natural. "Sorry, I needed to figure something out with one client. Nothing horrible." From the corner of his eye, he could see Tanaka raising his eyebrow, and Enoshita didn't look convinced by that either, if Terushima could judge. You could at least send us a heads up. We were worried sick. I'm sorry, really. I just kind of forgot, you know? I'll go change and then I will come help you, okay? Yuji. Unfortunately, there was no other way to avoid his partner's gazes than by running away and hoping for the best. But before he did a single step, the budgie apparently had enough of being quiet and chirped loudly. Everyone paused, and Terushima cringed inwardly. What was that? What was what? The chirping. What was that, Yuji? He contemplated running away and locking himself into the nearest room, but then just chuckled sheepishly, switching to damage control. Oh, that. You see, I was just walking home like always, thinking normal stuff. Shorter version, Yuji? And I was adopted. Enoshita furrowed his brow. What? Before Terushima could answer, the light metallic click followed by a bit louder crash behind his back told him the cage door flew open. In the next second, the budgie flew up and settled on the top of his head, curling its little claws around Terushima's hair. By this girl here. He could feel everyone's eyes on him, the silence making him squirm inwardly. But he wasn't going to budge, no matter what. Yuji, what's that? That's a budgie. You know. A strange mix of emotions flashed across Enoshita's face. I know what a budgie is, but why is it here? I told you, because she adopted me. I found her by that weird pet shop near the salon and took her with me. You can't just bring a pet here without at least talking to us first. But she needed help. Do you see how small that cage is? And how thin she is? I had to help her. Ryu, support me in this, please. Tanaka looked torn, his eyes jumping from Enoshita to Terushima to the budgie and back. I don't know, Yuji. I don't have any experience keeping birds. If you brought a cat or dog, I would help you in a heartbeat, but I know how to take care of birds, remember? We kept canaries and parrots when I was younger. We even had a macaw. Budgie is nothing compared to that in terms of care. Please. Yuji, pretty please. Look how cute she is. As if on cue, the budgie flew up, making a little circle around the room before perching comfortably on Terushima's shoulder. And she already got used to me. Apparently. Somehow. She probably thinks you are her mother with that hair. Terushima huffed, offended. So what? I would be a great mother. The budgie flew up again, circling the room once more before it headed straight into the living room and stopped for a second in front of Dashu. Dashu's eyes widened slightly, but Terushima's worry soon dissipated when Dashu offered the budgie his hand to settle on, which the budgie immediately accepted and even rubbed its head against his finger. A short, soft laugh escaped Dashu's mouth, and Terushima's heart melted into a puddle of goo. And by the looks of it, the others were feeling the same way. No wonder. It had been quite a while since they heard Dashu laugh, albeit quietly. See? She likes Sugu already. We can't give her away now. And she's going to be great company for Sugu too when he's here alone. That seemed to be the last hit to Enoshita's resolve, as he sighed and gave Terushima a stern look. Fine, but you'll buy a cage, food, and everything else that budgie needs. You are the expert, so you'll act like it. Understood? Deal. And you'll have to teach us how to care for it for times when you aren't around. Of course. They're really easy, I promise. He paused, pulling his head between his shoulders a bit. We just might have to get rid of the non-stick pants. He cowered a bit under Enoshita's glare. I'm sorry, I'll buy you new ones. It's just, she could die from the fumes. Enoshita loved his pants, he knew that. But if they wanted to keep the Baji alive for more than a few days, the pants had to go. Another deep sigh escaped Enoshita's mouth. Fine, I'll look into ceramics. Hiroshima rejoiced. He skipped to Enoshita, throwing his arms around him and kissing his cheek. You are the best, you know. Hey, and what about me? Snickering over Tanaka's pout, Terushima skipped over to him and kissed him too, gently nudging his side. You are great too. You'll see, you'll love it when she sits on your shoulder while you work. With our luck, she's going to become attached to Suguru and not even come near us. Maybe, but would it be so bad? They all looked at Dasho, who seemed to be completely enamored by the little bird sitting on his finger. The sweetest, softest smile settled on his lips. He looked genuinely happy, quietly chatting with the budgie that answered him with similarly happy chirping. Nah, not really. They watched the heartwarming sight for a while longer before Tanaka cleared his throat. So, should we go buy a cage now? We probably shouldn't let her fly around just like that the whole night, right? Yeah, I don't want to put her back into that tiny thing again. Is any pet store open at this hour? We can check. Upon finding out there was one opened pet store somewhat close by, Terushima grabbed his phone and wallet again and motioned for Tanaka to come along, since he was about to need some strong muscles to help him with everything. Just keep her occupied with talking, or let her perch on your shoulder until we come back, okay? Dasha nodded, the spark Terushima missed so much lately back in his eyes. And you can think of a name in the meantime too. Can I? Yeah, sure. Or maybe she'll tell you herself. Dasha looked confused for a moment, but then his eyes snapped back to the budgie as it started to chirp differently than before. Birdie! Birdie! She can talk. Terushima chuckled. Seems like it. Budgies are smart and can mimic really well. Who knows what else she knows? He let Dasha and Enoshita try to figure out what else the budgie could mimic already, and motioned for Tanaka to follow. What else do we need except for the cage? Some food, toys, football, that sort of thing. We will see what they have and then... They both jumped when the doorbell rang. Confused as to who could be coming to them this late into the evening, he exchanged an uncertain glance with Tanaka before he opened the door. A man and a woman, both in their 50s by the looks of it, stood in front of the door, their faces visibly surprised as they measured Terushima from head to toe. Can we help you? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. We were told Tanaka Ryonosuke lives here, but maybe we got the wrong address? No, He staggered a bit when Tanaka pulled him back, the strange look in his eyes and clenched jaw stopping him before he could ask questions. What are you doing here? Oh, Ryu, darling, it's so nice to see you. I can't say the same. What do you want? Ryu, you know them? Tanaka gritted his teeth, but Terushima knew him long enough to recognize the tense lines gathered around his eyes. Unfortunately, Yuji, meet my so-called parents. Terushima froze. Oh. Oh shit. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. So, what do we think about the new upcoming plot points? Which I'm kind of curious what you got from what we had here in this particular part. So let me know in the comments what you think and what you think is going to happen with the new arrivals. Yeah, so this is something that a lot of you asked for, which is focus on Tanaka. So let's see how this goes, shall we? Though I really hope that you will be paying attention to it when I'm adding another plotline to the whole storyline. Because, yes, when you asked for it, at least pay attention to it, please. If you have any requests or ideas, the request form is linked in the video description. See you next time.